Welcome back to another episode with Wellness with Mo. Hi, my name is Mo, and this week's episode, I have an amazing coach. She's all the way from Kansas. She's a trauma expert, stress management expert, recovery addiction expert. With us is Elizabeth Kipp, and I hope I pronounced the name correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. Thank you for being with us, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Mo. I'm so grateful to be here, and it's exciting to be able to uh, um, to be with you all the way in Egypt. This is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Well, here, here on our podcast, I always try and get amazing people from all around the world to discuss and open up about their journeys and struggles. Because I believe that when people listen to others' struggles and challenges, they would have some kind of reflection on themselves that they're not alone. I mean, everyone has their own problems. Everyone has their own challenges, maybe differently, but it's how we overcome them and become more resilient, and that's the main idea. So, starting off, let us just get to know you better, because I think it's better for you to explain yourself and tell us your journey.
Oh, thank you. So I really I have a lot of things I call myself. Stress
Okay.
management is a piece of it. Addiction recovery is a piece of it. Ancestral clearing, historical trauma. These are
Mm,
all bits, but my real where I really shine is helping people find their way through chronic pain.
okay.
Chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more.
Mm,
Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. If you feel it for 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more, it's chronic.
mm,
And because the brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart. It's all the same to the brain sending a signal it hurts.
mm.
That's really where I all the other things all the labels that I have, they're all kind of under the header of stress management and chronic pain. Historical
Okay.
trauma is absolutely a piece of chronic pain. And why is that important? Because chronic pain changes the um, the way the brain processes information. We
Mm,
have this thing called a stress response in the body. When we're threatened or under stress, the stress response goes into the on position,
mm.
and all kinds of biochemistry and behavior happen in order for us to meet the threat or the stressor. And
Mm.
then we meet it, and the stress response goes back to normal. In the
Yeah.
chronic pain experience, the stress response stays in the on position. It doesn't come
Mm,
off. And we're
mm,
actually not made for chronic stress. So it's
mm.
really important that we learn how to, and there's a lot of stressors in the environment these days. It's really important that we learn how to find our way through chronic stress and chronic pain so that we can bring that stress response back into balance.
Mm.
Right. So that's kind of where I where I live. And why am I qualified to teach that? I lived it. I was a chronic pain sufferer for 40 years. Pardon me.
Okay.
and and I was on a lot of medication because the doctors that I was with didn't know how to heal it,
Mm, mm.
until I finally found a doctor who understood the nature of chronic pain and knew how to A, detox me off the medication, and B, help me
Mm.
reset my stress response back to normal. And
Okay.
so I walked into his program 10 years ago. I walked into his program with 40 years of chronic pain and 31 years of prescription medication under my belt. And 52 days later, I walked out with no pain.
Okay.
That was
So
how
what?
powerful his
So
practice
so so
was.
so what triggered it? What triggered your chronic pain? Definitely, there has to be a trigger, correct?
Oh, well, yeah, actually in kind of to get technical for just a minute, because it'll help elucidate what you just
Mm.
asked. There's a thing called allostatic load.
Okay.
Allostatic load. And
Mm.
that's a measure of how much stress one person carries in their system. And
Okay.
my allostatic load point is like, yeah, now we're in chronic pain because the stress response can't go back to normal. It's in the on position all the time, right? So my allostatic load, and what was
Mm.
in that, I started out with a lot of unresolved emotional trauma as a child.
Mm.
Um, and like I had wonderful food on the table and clothes on my back and fresh water and a school to go to, and
Mm.
but my home life was erratic, and um, my mom was bipolar, had this bipolar disorder,
Okay.
and she used alcohol to deal with her pain that she had physically as well.
Mm.
And so very erratic behavior, very unpredictable, violent kind of stuff. And so I had that, which we never, I just thought that was normal. I didn't,
Mm.
I didn't know that wasn't normal. And then when
Mm.
I was 14, I had an injury where I injured my low back. I broke a bone in my low back, and it in two pieces, and the front part of it slipped forward into my pelvis.
Mm.
And I got up from that accident, but I I didn't realize, I knew I'd hurt myself, but I didn't realize I'd broken something. That's
Mm.
how kind of used to, that's how much I was used to just kind of pushing through life at that point. I didn't even know I'd broken a bone.
Mm.
Um, but 14 years later, I had to have surgery on that.
Mm.
And I did. And that's when they started me on the prescription pain medicine. And so that was quite a journey.
Mm. Mm.
Didn't,
It
it
is
took us 4 surgeries. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, it is quite a journey because uh I think a lot of people here in Egypt also have uh are extremely stressed, highly stressed. I think much more than a typical US citizen due to a lot of factors around us. The prices are going extremely high. People are not able to buy whatever they want. Jobs are becoming very rare and very little, and people are not able to get. I mean, basically get the basic things. I'm not talking about cars and luxury items. I'm talking about like bread and milk and eggs and the normal things that you cannot live without. But it is becoming ridiculously expensive, uh, even for us as if you call us middle class citizens or upper middle class. It's extremely expensive, and and this is putting a lot of stress on people, in addition to other factors around the region that are happening, also putting a lot of stress. So people are not, in Egypt, people keep on burning themselves, and this is, I had Lolita. I think you know her, the nice lady from Lithuania. I told her that people in Egypt keep on pushing themselves to the maximum point until they break, and then they go to the hospital. You know, that's the point where they are. They break and they go to the hospital, and then they start saying, "Oh, I'm really tired, or I have diabetes, or I have heart conditions," and no one tries to prevent anything before it happens.
Yeah, they need to balance their allostatic load. They need to
Yeah,
lighten the load,
yeah,
right? And now that's easy for you and I to say. That's
yeah, of
easy for you and I to just kind of put that out there. They need to lighten the
course,
load when
yeah,
you're in an environment where you're trying to survive. That's
yeah,
um that's uh that's difficult. So here's the thing that we can help with.
mm,
Here's the thing that we can help with. The mindfulness practice.
yeah,
The what's happening in this moment,
Yeah.
is what's happening in, what's happening here and now without worrying about the past or the future, just here.
Mm.
That's calming to the nervous system.
Yes,
And
yes,
we,
yes, yes, yes. Egyptians are always like, I don't know, but because I'm being a little bit biased, but Egyptians are always holding on to the past. A lot of people I know are always holding on to the past, and I tell them, there's nothing you can do. Whatever happened happened. Whatever choice you made. Whatever journey you put yourself onto. Uh, and I try and tell them, you have to think of what you're doing right now. It's very difficult for them to do this because they think that you're being unrealistic. You're living in a different world. I tell them
well,
no.
I would say, and I hear you, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
What I try to do when I have a client like that, or a friend, if they ask me for their help, for my help,
yeah, yeah.
is they're holding on to the past. They're
Mm.
gripping.
Yeah.
So I ask myself and I ask them, what is it that's got you holding? What's the
Mm,
thing?
mm,
What will it take for you to do this, to
mm.
release that? What will it take? Because if you could let it go, you would. What's
Yeah.
what is what meaning are you making, or what is it that's got you holding on?
Mm,
In
mm.
yoga, they have this word, one of the yamas, there's the yamas and niyamas, the 10 ethical codes of yoga. Um,
Yeah.
and parigraha is one of them, which means non-grasping, non-clasping. And
Mm,
so, when I'm in a relationship and I'm doing this,
mm,
that is usually a codependent relationship.
mm, mm,
When I can do this in the relationship, and
mm,
and I can be me, and not and they can be themselves, and how they are doesn't affect me so much,
mm,
um in terms of my behavior, right? I'm kind of, I'm I'm in integrity with me, and
mm.
and then I can kind of let go, right? But
Okay.
if I'm, what if they say something, and it makes me, move one way or move another,
Mm,
um, that I'm gripping onto something, I'm
okay.
gripping onto. That might be a little more advanced than you wanted to talk about, but I just think it gets to a.
It's okay. It's okay. So you know, you talk about chronic pain, and I think, I mean, or I imagine that during the COVID and after the COVID, people and companies would take a more, serious step towards the well-being of their employees. I haven't seen that in Egypt, and from what I've heard from Lolita and from other people in the States, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, it's not happening even in the States. I mean, there was such a panic during, that year and a half or 2 years, and then everything went back to normal, but nothing, I mean, nothing happened. I mean, are we waiting for the next pandemic to take the actions, or we didn't learn anything?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah,
um
I'm
I
sorry
think
to
I think
lay it down
I
on you.
think I think we were. I mean, I know what happened to me, but I had a very different kind of pandemic.
Okay.
I had a lot of clients. I changed my business model so that in that I instead of having a straight fee,
Mm,
I put it on as a donation basis, so that people, anybody wanted to do the work could do the work.
mm,
And I was busier than I'd ever been. This is amazing. But
yeah.
people were hurting, and I still have clients. I have different kinds of clients now. I have different
Mm,
kinds of clients.
mm,
Um, what I've noticed, actually, from a just from the world that I'm living in,
mm.
Lolita and I are both members of something called the Wellness Universe. Oh, well, I think
Yeah.
that's how we met, was through Anna and
Yes.
through
Yes.
Pereira,
Yes.
who runs it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Wellness Universe is has just are coming into having a corporate presence, which is
Okay.
very exciting. So they're moving in wellness into corporate. And it's not
Mm,
just the wellness universe, because that this is a trend. I
mm,
just don't know how ubiquitous it is in the
mm,
corporate world. I don't know whether they're taking, I know it's happening in some places, just not
mm,
probably. But it's I remember um about 10 years ago, for the first time I saw meditation rooms in an airport. I was
yeah,
like, that's great. That's
that's amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
Yay.
Yeah, yeah. And in Egypt, you have I've only seen one company. It's an Egyptian real estate company. It's a big Egyptian real estate company, but it's working with an American American company with with regards to happiness in the workplace. And I've seen their facilities. They have a meditation room, and they have, it's called the meditation room, and I don't know, another room called the journal room or something like that. But they have it, and they do use it, but that's the only company. And this that was, I knew this after, of course, the pandemic. I got to look at their facilities, but till now I haven't seen any company in Egypt. And this is why I have a group of lovely ladies who are coaches in different areas of wellness, nutrition, and meditation and mindfulness, breathing, and hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and all that areas. And we all agree that companies in Egypt, I multinationals and locals, because we always thought that multinationals would have a better, a positive outlook towards their employees, do not have that kind of
No, the
mindset.
ethic is the ethic is money. How
Yes,
much money can we make? That's, I mean, that's my experience of, like, what's the bottom line, the dollar bottom line. It's not the people's health bottom line. That's not where
yeah,
they don't understand that there's a correlation between their
no, they
bottom
don't.
line and the health of their workers, which I'm like, if we get it, why don't they? I don't quite understand
and
that.
and and, and Elizabeth, they're spending a lot of Egyptian pounds on medical insurance, and are convincing the employees that this is a benefit that you take from the company. Yes, it is a benefit in terms of, you have some kind of security just in case you have anything. Or, however, for me, if you spend all those millions of pounds on medical insurance, why don't you spend a few thousand pounds, actually, very few thousand pounds, on some wellness programs that can lessen, the stress levels, the anxiety, the chronic diseases, because a lot of Egyptians have diabetes, and they have, blood pressure, high blood pressure, and they have heart conditions, and we have different diseases, and it has nothing to do with age. It has nothing. I mean, it's not the old people. It's people like me, my age gap, which is 30s and 40s, are getting sicker and tired, and they're going to the hospital. I mean, for me, on a personal level, my last time, the last time I worked in a corporate, I went to the hospital, to the ER, because I had I felt some chest pains, and I'm a guy who did an open heart surgery when he was born. I mean, when I was born, I had some issues in my heart.
Oh,
So
wow.
so from what I understand from my history, I was afraid that something would happen to me. So that is basically what's happening to us. It comes to a point that we're all tired and all facing different. And the problem is, people, I mean, are saying this is normal. You have to be competitive. You have to work hard. You have to, work your butt off every day. And if not, and I tell them, trust me, the day you die, no one's gonna ever think about you, or the day you get sick, no one's going to ever. And this is what happened in COVID. I mean, everyone was scared in Egypt, and everyone the husband and wife were fighting because they they couldn't stand each other working in the same house and working offline, and they don't understand how the online presence is versus the offline presence. So there was a lot of confusion, and nothing happened after that. I thought everything's going to change, but no, nothing happened. I mean, some people were started to get you know, aware more about their health, mental health. I would say that's the only positive things on an individual basis, but on a corporate basis, it hasn't yet become something tangible.
I think there's a basic misunderstanding um, at the corporate leadership level around what it takes to run a team within a
Mm,
corporation
mm,
and what stress is and isn't.
yeah, yeah,
Because when we're under stress and we feel
mm,
threatened,
mm,
our nervous system gets dysregulated and we
exactly.
can't think straight.
Mm,
So how am I supposed to make a good decision if I'm on a team that has a deadline
mm,
and I'm so stressed that I can't think straight?
mm,
That's that's a that's just making things worse, you see. So we have to have a basic understanding of the advantages and the kind of understanding of keeping keeping ourselves balanced and
mm,
internally, the
mm,
nervous
yeah,
system and teamwork, being able to co-regulate with one another, right? So
yeah.
self-regulation, internal regulation, and co-regulation with one another. It's not like we have to work harder, Mo. We
No,
have to work more mindfully.
mindfully,
We
mindfully,
have to
and
work more mindfully.
this is why, as a trainer from my side, I always try and encourage clients or companies to implement emotional intelligence on a on the tool to company. I mean, because people don't understand each other, people don't understand themselves in terms of feelings, and they don't know how to acknowledge their feelings, and they don't understand how to be empathetic to other people. And the problem with empathy and sympathy, like we say it, is that in Arabic, empathy and sympathy means the same thing, like in English, or people think they mean the same thing. And I tell them no, it's not. Sympathy is not empathy, and that is totally different. And you need and people need to be more empathetic towards each other, and especially the leaders of companies, the top management have to be more empathetic. They have to encourage vulnerability. Here in Egypt, vulnerability is looked at as a weakness. If I'm
I agree.
vulnerable,
Yeah.
yeah, if I'm vulnerable, if I did a mistake, and I've dealt with this. I mean, we all do mistakes. I mean, we're not angels. We all do mistakes. So we're there, and that's what makes us humans. But when I do a mistake, I would like my manager to support me, not to shout at me or to bully me or to tell me
Mhm.
that I don't understand or to make me feel bad even more than I feel. I mean, definitely when I do a mistake, I do regret doing the mistake, but it's done. So how can we learn from it? So this is the issue, Elizabeth.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah. So if I make a mistake and I get yelled at or disciplined some way, what is that going to do me? It's just going to dysregulate me more,
mm,
disconnected from my executive thinking. I won't be able to actually work the solution. So it's
mm.
working the opposite.
Yeah.
Yelling at somebody when they make a mistake doesn't help them find a solution, which is what
Mm,
everybody wants to get to. So we really
mm,
we have to have a lot more empathy and compassion. But here's the thing: it
mm,
starts here
mm,
with me and you, with the individual. If we're not able to feel ourselves, if we're so shut down that we're not feeling our own feelings, and
mm,
we don't have compassion for ourselves because of our own internal the war that we're, the discontent we have inside,
Mm,
that affects everyone that we touch.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how can you be a corporate leader if you're disconnected from your own empathy and you're shut down inside? It's difficult. They have to be able to do the work too. The emotional intelligence, everybody should be doing that work. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they shouldn't be calling anybody wrong.
Yeah, yeah. It should always start from the leaders. You definitely watch Simon Sinek videos and inspirational talks, and Simon is one of my all-time idols and mentors, because when he talks, I mean, he makes it very simple. It's a very simple equation. It starts from the top. If you practice vulnerability, if you practice open space, to give your employees an open and safe space to talk about their problems,
Mhm.
everything will improve: productivity, growth, revenue, sales. But the leaders here and in the States and all over the world see it on a different scale. I mean, they don't understand. I don't know if they understand it, and they're just um ignoring the facts, or they need to be aware or educated about what to do. I mean, this is something. I am not I'm not a leader in a company, but from an outside perspective, I see this is a very normal and very easy thing to implement, and it doesn't cost a lot. I said this before on LinkedIn, and I say it in all the sessions and everywhere I talk. There are things that can be done really simple, that are have less the cost less money, and have a greater impact on the employee and on his motivation. Things like let the employee have like a 30 minutes digital detox. He shouldn't, I mean, for him not to be on his phone for like half an hour, instead of the half an hour he's on his phone and eating. He could be half an hour eating, socializing with people, or just walking around the office, doing anything that has nothing to do with looking at emails, WhatsApp messages, Facebook notifications, LinkedIn notifications, whatever notifications they have, for 30 minutes. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not that much. It's not going to cost the company a dime. I mean, yeah, things like that. Certain things like that. So I wanted to ask you. um the trauma part that you do, because in Egypt we don't um we don't believe in trauma things. I mean, not believe, but in Egypt it's a very Eastern culture. So anything that happened before, they tell us just forget about it, and overcome it, and push on, and don't worry about it. Certain things like
Oh,
that.
that's the way I
But
was raised.
yeah, 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 yeah. For me, on a personal level, I had my biggest trauma was because my father was a diplomat. He worked in the foreign ministry here in Egypt, so we had to travel to different areas of the world, and so that meant that I had to make friends every time, or start to make friends and start to integrate into the society. And I was bullied when I was outside Egypt, and I was bullied when I was in Egypt. I mean, every time when I go out I get bullied, when I come back I get
Mm.
bullied. When I'm out I get bullied because I'm a Egyptian, a Muslim, and an Arab. That's what they say. And when I'm in Egypt, they bully me because they think I'm a foreigner who doesn't know how to speak Arabic, and who believes in Western, values, or has taken Western values and Western views. So it was very a mixed up feeling I had. I was very confused, and it took some time for me to, to overcome it. But today I would tell you that because of this, I can talk to you and I can talk to millions of other peoples as if I'm talking to an Egyptian with no, with no judgment or
Mhm.
stereotyping or being biased or whatever. I'm very open, and that's the only good thing that came out of this process. To be open to all cultures and understand all cultures.
Wow, I'm still taking that in. You know, that's a form of chronic pain that you suffered.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah,
form of chronic pain.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
that
is.
constant bullying, that's chronic stress. Yeah.
It is.
It,
It is.
it
It is.
takes work to a lot of healing work to clear that,
Yeah.
right? And for me, the way I was raised was it doesn't matter what happened to you, just deal with it and move on. And dealing with it meant we don't want to see your tears and we don't want to hear your joy. We don't want to actually hear you. Just be quiet. You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
take it and be
Yeah.
quiet. So
Yeah.
because that was the way I was raised, um,
Mm.
I learned to hold it all inside, and that adds to your allostatic load.
Yeah.
So you end up with this a lot of internal pressure,
Mm.
which I call I didn't suffer from depression, but depression I call deep pressure, right?
Yeah.
Deep
Yeah.
pressure, lots of
Yeah.
unresolved uh,
Uh,
stuff inside. It takes work to clear that.
yeah. It
Um,
does.
the, so trauma's not, it's not like little t and big T trauma. It's like trauma. Dr. Gabor Mate has a beautiful description of that. Trauma's not what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you because of what happens to you.
Mm.
We get
Mm.
disconnected from others, from ourselves, from God, whatever you call that power.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and we become very isolated because we're protecting, right? We're in
Mm.
constant protection mode. Where you
Yeah.
can't, you can connect kind of in a codependent way
Mm.
when you're protecting, but you can't really protect like this and open and connect at the same time. The nervous system's not really made that way. So it's kind of like you can't digest your food and run a triathlon. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
made for
Exactly.
that, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
the same thing. So we so it's important that we understand kind of what trauma is, what it does to us, so that we can then do the work we need to do to heal that. And we begin by healing. We're traumatized in relationship. So
Mm.
we need a safe relationship in order to heal. And
Yeah.
that's so we need safety. And you spoke to that, just like
Mm.
Simon Sinek said, we need employees need a safe space in order to thrive, in order for
Yeah.
the company.
Yeah.
This
Of
that's
course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the idea of crying or anything in Egypt for a guy to cry publicly is
Mhm.
is looked at as shameful. I remember my father used to
Mhm.
shout at me and tell me, "Don't cry. You're a man. You shouldn't cry." And
Mhm.
but I'm a very sensitive human being. I mean, I'm not like my brother. My brother can, he won't cry, but he would pack all his feelings inside, but he would
Mhm.
not show any feelings outside. I cannot do that. It's very difficult. Even when I, have disagreement with my wife or something, yet I become very emotional. I mean, it's something I cannot control, and I find that being emotional is a good thing. I mean, it is a good thing.
Mhm.
It clears and cleans the system. If I don't do that, then it's
Yeah,
gonna, explode somehow somewhere. I don't know, maybe
yeah.
uh,
The
hitting
emotions
stuff.
just energy,
Yeah,
energy in motion. It's just
yeah,
energy in motion, and the body knows right what to do with that. But like when we're brought up in an environment where you know if we show our emotion, then there are repercussions and negative consequences to that. Then
Mm,
we don't even know, we forget how to do that. Like I had to
yeah.
learn how to do that again.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
like I don't even know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I don't have, it's not safe. I had to be in safe spaces in order to do that.
Yeah. My younger son, he's 7. He's very emotional also. I mean, he cries from anything, and sometimes he has a very big tantrum, and he starts to cry constantly. And the only way to make him uh, stop crying is for him to hug me. So I let him hug me, and
Yeah.
I tell him, "Okay, it's okay. Get it out of your system, and cry, and no problem. I'm here." And it does work tremendously, because after a while he starts crying, and he's okay, and everything's fine. So
Well, the thing about kids is the little ones is that they don't know how to do emotional regulation. They don't have that capacity.
yeah,
So the adults are the ones that teach them how to do that. And
yeah,
you're being a perfect model by just, holding,
mm,
accepting, helping them learn how you're co-regulating with them, helping them learn how to
mm,
self-regulate as they get older. And this is
yeah,
our job as parents and as aunts and uncles and whatever, as caretakers of the children, is to
yeah.
help them because we're their regulators. They can't
Yes.
do it for themselves. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, of course. So, I wanted to ask you, what's one sentence, or one word that would describe yourself?
Wow. Um, well, my mission is to be present. That's
Okay,
my mission, is to be present.
okay,
Yeah, to be present.
all right.
My mission is like to live a conscious life. That's my
To live
mission.
on. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's amazing. So, my final question. I know. Thank you for being with us. So, what's your dream? What do you want to do? What's your dream? What's your
Well,
hope?
my dream is for peace for mankind. That's my
Oh yeah,
dream. It's always
yeah,
been my dream. That's
yeah.
always
It
been
is.
my dream.
It is. It is. It is. It is everyone's dream. Each human being in the world that feels and sees the cruelty of war, whether it's in the Middle East, or in Europe, or in Africa,
Internally,
uh,
or
and
the internal
internally.
war.
Yeah, and the internal war. Yeah, yeah. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being with us on the podcast. I mean, I really enjoyed our talk, and I hope I didn't I wasn't too complicated in my questions, and too difficult in my questions, but
Oh, I enjoyed our
I'm
conversation.
very grateful and very humbled for you for having you with us here today. It's amazing, and I really learned a lot of things today. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Mo. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And thank you
Yeah,
so much for your kind invitation.
thank you,
Now,
thank you, everyone, for this week's episode. I hope next week, I hope we'll have a different guest. Most probably, we're going to have a young Egyptian entrepreneur who's managed to solve the job job market issues in Egypt. So stay tuned. God bless you, and be safe.